We're the K-9 unit. Welcome to this edition of Inside APD.
Welcome to This Week in APD News. Last week, we were invited to UTA to assist students with taking a pledge to not engage in underage drinking. DWI Officer Stacy Brown spoke with young people about the dangers of drinking and driving. Attendees also received flyers, trading cards, and a handshake from fellow officers. Our desire is that all students take the pledge not to drink and drive.
I'm Officer Stacy Brown, and we're out here at UTA today to try to educate our students here in Arlington about the dangers of drinking and driving. It's Friday, they're about to go on spring break, so we're trying to prevent future accidents here in Arlington. We're having students come by, and we're basically providing free literature and education, trying to explain to these students that unfortunately Texas always leads the nation in our fatal crashes, and we're trying to prevent that. Every year we are the #1 state in DWI fatalities. I think in 2010 we had 10,228 fatals, and Texas led the nation with over 1,200. So we do have a problem here in Texas, and that's what we're trying to prevent.
Arlington officers are out in force this week during spring break in an effort to get intoxicated drivers off the roadway. We have implemented no refusal, where officers will seek a search warrant to obtain a blood sample for any person stopped for suspicion of driving while intoxicated and that person refuses to provide a breath specimen. You can do your part by planning your weekend festivities by designating a sober driver before heading out. A spirit of tradition continued this month when officers and firefighters met students on the basketball court at Miller Elementary School. The starting lineup included Police Chief Will Johnson and other Arlington officers. Deputy City Manager Theron Bowman served as the honorary referee. Players say the game was an opportunity to have fun and strengthen bonds with our youth and the community. The final score, Miller Elementary 46, Police and Fire 44. This is the second part of a three-part series that focuses on our K-9 unit. Let's go to the field where Sergeant Brett McDonnell speaks with K-9 Handler Vince Ramsour.
Okay, joining me now is Officer Vince Ramsour. Vince, tell us a little about yourself and tell us about your dog.
Well, I've been working with the City of Arlington as a police officer for 20 years, and I've been in the K-9 unit for 16. The K-9 partner I currently have is K-9 Mojo, and he is a 6-year-old Belgian Malinois, imported here from Holland, and I've been with him for about 2.5 years.
Say you guys go on vacation. What do you do with the dog?
Well, you know, we only have a 3-man unit, so we don't have a lot of options. So what we like to do, if a handler goes out of town, we simply get with one another, and one of the guys takes care of the dog. So we all have access to each other's homes, and whether someone's out of town or not. But that way we can get in the house, in the backyard, and take care of the animal. And even if the handler himself is only out of town, but the family's still there, we can still get inside the house and take care of the animal if any type of emergency arises.
Okay. This is pretty much a 24-hour operation with K-9. Can you give us an idea on how you deal with the dog from work and then the transition back to the house?
When we get off of our shift, one of the first things we're going to do is check the dog from nose to tail and make sure during the course of his shift with us he didn't sustain some type of an injury, or make sure there's nothing wrong with the pads of his feet. You know, just a simple routine check to make sure the dog is okay.
Dog stays in a kennel outside, or do you allow the dog to stay inside with you during the inclement weather conditions?
You know, that's a handler call. But me personally, all of my dogs, Mojo happens to be my third partner of my canine career, and all of my dogs stay outside in a kennel, even during inclement weather.
Okay, there's a lot of dog lovers that are out there, and obviously when we're out in public, people tend to gravitate towards you guys when you have your dogs out. Is there any kind of advice that you could give to the general public when you guys have a dog out of your car?
Well, that's a real good question, because actually we get approached a lot by the general public, whether that be, you know, on a call or just driving around. I've had folks pull up to me next to me at a stoplight before and ask if they can see the dog. And the basic general rule that we even tell our officers is just, if you see the dog out of the car with us, don't approach the dog. It's fine to look at the dog or admire the dog from a distance, but not to approach us. The dogs we have, they meet more people in a week than most dogs meet in their entire life. So the dogs are very social animals. They meet a lot of people. So if you ever want to meet a police dog, simply ask the handler, and if he can, we'll make it to where we can get the dog out and let you see the dog and ask any questions you might want to ask about him. You know what, the biggest thing we're doing is, instead of looking for things, what we're doing is listening more than anything, is because we're keeping in touch with all four sides of town and trying to see if there's anybody on any of those sides of town at any given time that could need the assistance of a canine, or we can assist in any way. So that's what we're doing more than anything. And then of course we're looking for anything that any regular officer looks for, whether it be a traffic stop or just something out of the ordinary. There you go, Miss Richardson. Everything looks good. You know, there's been more than a couple times that just by having the dog in the car, when I've made a traffic stop, you get that feeling that someone is going to do something. You don't know what they're going to do, but when they hear the dog bark and know that the dog is there with you, you can see their mind changes, and it just gives you that little bit of an ease, you know, knowing that maybe a police officer isn't with you, but your partner is there with you, and that helps a lot. Well, being a canine handler is a very unique situation due to the fact that you get so accustomed and so attached to the animal that you become partners with. And every dog that you take on, that you inherit, we have a saying in canine, you know, that you have inherited a heartbreak, because at some point in time, someday you're going to have to say goodbye to that animal that was your partner for so long.